Welcome back to Techies That Talk. Neha and I today are going to talk about leadership roles. In Toastmasters, there's lots of opportunities to practice your leadership skills. Neha, why don't you talk about your current leadership role?
Thank you, Joel. My current leadership role that I'm doing for the Highway to Excellence Club is being VP of Education for Highway to Excellence. Now, people who are new, VP of Education basically determines the roles for every meeting. They talk to the members who wants to speak, who is available for evaluation, who's going to be Toastmaster, and who's going to do the general evaluation. So VP of Education person is mainly responsible to fill up the roles for every meeting. At Highway to Excellence, we do it a little bit differently. The VP of Education assigns roles, and then the Toastmaster confirms with every member whether they are available or not. But in my previous club, the VP of Education did everything. Like, they made the agenda. They were the ones who would go and confirm that the members are going to come and speak. In Hybrid Excellence, we let the Toastmasters do the confirmation. And if they need anything, definitely they can come back to us. Being an advanced club, it is not difficult because everybody knows what their roles are. But if you are in a new club or a club which is not an advanced club, then you may need to help the members learn what their role entails. If it's a new member and if you tell them, hey, you're going to be grammarian, they wouldn't know. So then the VP of Education would explain what that role would be. That is one part of being a VP of Education. The other role is helping members achieve their goals. Earlier, we had those manuals, confident communicator manuals and leadership manual. And in that leadership manual, basically was doing all the different kind of roles, and your VP of Education helps you complete that manual. In pathways, basically, I think the VP of Education can ask every member, hey, what level do you want to complete in next 6 months? And they help and assist the members accomplish that goal. So with VP of Education wears a lot of hats, I would say. They did only not do the agenda, but they also help members accomplish their goals. And then behind the scenes, they will give you a training. Like if you have never been a VP of Education, there is a mandatory training that you have to go and you learn how to work. Like in my current VP of Education training, I had two people who were brand new. They had never done VP of
So
Education.
let's back up a little bit. So in a club, there are actually 7 officer roles, and VP of Education is just one of them. And yes, it is a big role. I've done it before. It does mean that you interact with the members quite a lot because you're helping them achieve their goals. But there's also the president of the club, which is basically the CEO of the club for the time period the that the officers hold office. It's either a 6 month period or it's a year. There is VP of membership. There is VP of public relations, secretary, treasurer, and sergeant at arms. So 7 roles altogether. But the leadership roles don't stop there. That is just at the club level. You can take it up a level where you're actually in the district. There are area level roles, there are district level roles. Mine this year is actually the alignment chair. There are a number of chairmen that do various things. I'm the alignment chair, which for next year, I will make sure that all of the clubs in our district, of which there are 100 plus clubs, I don't remember the exact number. I think there's about 110 or 112 right now, and they all fit into areas, and this allows them to join together and do things together, like the competition that we talked about the last time. There's area directors, division directors, there's a district director, there are what we call the trio, which is the district director, I'm a blank on what the new roles names are because there were old names and there are new names. But basically, the one that handles all the club growth and one that handles all the education of the district. And the role that Neha has this time actually falls under that role. And there are a number of different chairmen that help out. I mean, you don't ever do anything alone in Toastmasters. If you don't feel like you know how to do it, there is always someone there that is willing to mentor you and help you grow into that role. And Neha was talking about going to training. Training is something that every officer does every 6 months. And while I have had many club offices over the years and attended training many times, I learned something new every time. And even have done some of the training and learned something new from someone else. Did you find you learned something from other people this time, Neha?
Definitely, yes. I'm doing the VP of Education role after 10 years. So it was definitely new how different clubs manage their pathways. How do they track every person's pathway progress? And it was a very good session where we are not just going through the slide, but actually her showing us how to do things. So I really like that. I really love exchanging ideas how different VP of education officers create agendas, like how they put people and assign roles. So it was a good learning experience. And again, I've been doing a club officer role after nearly 10 years. I wanted to see the difference from where we were and now what we are doing. So it's a good experience to see how officers manage the club.
Have you ever thought about getting into a management position at work?
To be honest, no, I do not aspire to be a manager.
I don't
Just
really
be,
either. Not a people manager. I do
yes,
a type of project management where I deal with people, but not a people manager or a functional manager. But when you go to interviews and they ask you about your leadership skills, they're always interested in knowing, do you have management potential? And these are opportunities to grow in those skills. I had the opportunity to be the conference chair one year. This was right after COVID. It was quite a learning experience because it was our first hybrid conference, and I knew nothing about the hybrid side of it. But I got an opportunity to work with about 30 or 35 people. When do you ever have an opportunity to chair? And it's I don't look at it as chairing, okay? I look at it as working with people because we all have a common goal. And I'm just one of those people. But when do you ever have that opportunity in real, your real world, your professional world, where you don't have experience doing it already? Toastmasters offers you that opportunity. So if you wanted to, Neha, do you feel like taking these leadership roles could help you make that springboard?
definitely yes. I think Toastmaster has given me a lot of confidence, especially doing these leadership roles, because I remember in one of the clubs that I was in, uh, they were like very short on members. So
Mm-hmm.
there were only 8 to 10 people in the club, and they were, I wouldn't say they were a brand new club, but all the members were new. So they had no idea what they were doing. They had a president who had been there only in the club for 6 months. Their VP of education had to leave the club. So I decided to step in and be the VP of education for that club. And I was able to actually, I would say, organize the club. I was pushed into the role. I did not want the role. But they did not have members that did not have experience. And I came from other clubs. I've always been in more than one club. So I came from clubs where I had experienced how it should work. So I was able to guide this club with new members like, hey, this is how you run the club. And I was able to help the president. I was able to organize them in terms of agenda, try to help them, help VP of membership to recruit new members. So I think what I learned from that experience is if the situation demands, I can step into the role and be a leader. Question is, if it's a choice, do I want to do it? The answer is no. So I think I was just very curious. What prompted you to even do the chair? Like doing something beyond club, like being the conference chair?
Well, there were two things for me. One is I wanted to get out and do something that was a large project. At the time, I wasn't working, so it afforded me the time, and I was ready to take on something that actually helped me stretch my skills and grow. I had never been a conference chair. I had helped out a little bit here and there, nothing in a major role, but I really wanted to stretch my skills. And I figured this is not only a way for me to help stretch my skills and grow, but when I was going to go get back into the job market, it showed something that I did that was positive, that applied towards what I do for a living. So while I don't manage people, I manage projects and the people on the teams. It's a little different than being a functional manager. You know, I'm not the person that hires and fires. I actually have to inspire people to do work, which is a lot of the skills that you need when you're in a volunteer organization, which Toastmasters is. Everybody who takes these roles are volunteers. And most of them haven't had their arms twisted, or at least hard. We have a term that we use, it's called voluntold. You know, most people are not voluntold in these roles. They actually agree to do them. And so it just was something for me to feel useful, number one. Number two, expand my skills. And number three, do something valuable for the district.
I will add to it that when you do roles beyond your club, the officer roles that you explained, you meet a lot of new people from different clubs.
You do. And we're gonna talk with somebody in a little bit who we've met outside of our clubs. Greg is going to join us, and I don't think I've actually been in a club with Greg. I met him at the district level and have gotten to be friends with him. Now, I can't say I know I'm good friends with him, but I am definitely acquainted and have met him and talked to him over the years, as I have a lot of people at the district level. But interestingly enough, we have people who are above the district that come in that help. And one of our members is actually a regional advisor. She has a region that is in the Northwest, and she flies out and helps clubs in those areas. Now, she was a district director, which is the CEO of our district, and took this role because she wanted to expand her skills. But we've had other regional advisors come in. There is a lady that is from Mexico that has come in several times. And Violetta, I've met and talked to and gotten to know a little bit. She's a very nice lady, very knowledgeable. But it's just amazing who you meet when you step out of the club.
I agree. I met Greg in the speech contest. I I have always expressed my love for speech contests, so I met him through that, and in the conferences that we do, the Toastmaster conferences that we have. So I have never been in club with him either, and I was very surprised. Like, he's so helpful. He just wants to help you to be a better speaker. So it was really wonderful to know him and learn from him. So I'm glad that he's one of our guests today. But I would say the training, you meet a lot of new people who are in the same position as you are. If you go beyond, if you're an area director, which is basically you going to 3 or 4 clubs that you're assigned and see how they're doing, if they need any kind of help, and then you just report back to your division director, who's about
Mhm.
area director. But when you visit other clubs, you learn a lot of things. I have been an area director, and I learned how different clubs conduct their meeting. Like, generally, you do speech portion, then table topics, and then evaluation. That is your structure of the meeting, but every club has its own way of conducting that meeting. Like, I have been in clubs where they do table topics first, then they do speeches, and then they do evaluation. I've been in clubs where they don't have speakers and they will just do table topics. So you meet different kind of people. You also see how people conduct the meetings differently. I think one thing I also learned is there are corporate owned clubs, and then there are clubs that are uh, not corporate owned. The corporate owned clubs work a little differently than how we run our meetings. So I think once you step out of your club, there's so much to learn and so many new people to meet. It's the first, taking that first step, which may seem a little intimidating, but if you take the first step, there is a lot of reward on the other side.
I will absolutely agree with you. Now, I've been an area governor. This was before they changed the names. Area governor, area director are the same role. And I had 4 or 5 clubs in my area, and I had a wonderful time helping those clubs along. But one of the things that I learned was that every club has its own way of doing things, but also their own goals. I had one club that was so close to completing all these goals that Toastmasters gives you, but that wasn't their focus and the way they did things. And so I had to adjust my thoughts based on their goals. And it's perfectly fine. It is a self paced program, but they had the way that things were organized. They just were going to do things a little differently than, say, the club that I belonged to at the time. Now, I also had the experience of being a division director. Now, this was after the titles had changed and we went from governors to directors. And the division director role is different because you're not dealing with the club so much as you're dealing with the area directors and helping them with their clubs. So instead of having 4 or 5 clubs, I was looking at more like 20 or 25 clubs that were underneath the area directors. But my purpose for that role was to help the area directors achieve their goals. And it was more people oriented. It was more of that functional manager type role where you have to understand people's goals and where they are and helping them achieve those skills that they need. But a lot of cheerleading and um, encouragement and just coaching them along. So it was a very different set of skill sets that I worked on that year, but I had a great time. And evidently I was recognized because I was recognized as the division director of the year that year, of which I was quite surprised. It wasn't my goal, but it, it was nice to be recognized for it.
If I'm not
What?
mistaken, when you were division director, I was an area director, and I was under a different division director. That was the year when I was the area director, you were the division director, but we were not under. I was not under you. I was under somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was very intimidating for me at first. But there was so much training given to us even before we decided to even accomplish what we need to as an area director. I remember it was like it was a whole day training just to learn what you do as an area director. You get to spend time with your division director, learn. I think another thing that I learned was the communication style. Like the communication style of you and your division director somewhere needs to sync. So
Actually, it's funny you talk about that. I have that now with my teams at work and trying to bridge that gap. I'm more of one of those persons that will pick up the phone and call somebody and have a 2-minute conversation rather than text somebody and have to wait. And I have a hard time with the if I need an immediate response, the texting thing. But I recognize that especially millennials are more into social media and texting and such. And that's their way of living. But now I have 2 sons, they're grown sons, and they're millennials. And I know that they communicate that way, but I've also taught them that you have to have a mix of skills there. And not everybody has learned that mix of skills. So you kind of have to work with people with where they are.
I'll also add when you become an area director, there is you have to organize a speech contest, and that takes a village to do that. I think it was very rewarding for me to organize that because now you're trying to find asking clubs like, hey, do you have people who would like to represent your club beyond the club level? Uh, nowadays we do it on Zoom, but that is also a lot of work. Basically, asking clubs if they would like to have speakers to represent their club at the area level. So I thought there was the one of the Toastmaster skills that you get to experience is when you are communicating with the president of or the VP of education of the club that you're visiting as an area director. Everyone has very different mindsets, different communication styles, and every president, again, you may have people who are very new to the club and maybe the president. And then as an area director, it is your job to help them understand, like, hey, as a club, you can accomplish this goals or this is what you need to do. So I got to experience a lot of public speaking or expressing my ideas to the presidents and the VP of education of the club when I was an area director. It is very enriching experience, I would say, going beyond the club and going to some other people's club and see how they do things. So there's one role that we didn't talk about, being a guest judge. I think that is also, no, not a guest judge. You can be a judge in the contest.
Now, I've been a judge and I've been a chief judge many, many times. And there is also a district chief judge, of which there's a gentleman that I worked with for many years. We're good friends. And he was the official district chief judge, and I was his assistant. And we went to every contest between the two of us and made sure contests ran well. So the judge is responsible for judging speeches, whether it's evaluation type speeches or international or humorous speeches. There's different kinds, but all of them have criteria that is on the back of a sheet that everybody learns about when you learn to become a judge. And then there's the district, or not the district, but the chief judge for the contest. And they're responsible for making sure that everything is fair for the contestants, that a fair contest is run, that everybody is on the same page, that everybody has the same kind of opportunities. And it's something that with COVID, we had to learn a little different skill sets. So just like today, we're online. All of our speech contests for the last few years have been online. And technical things happen. So how do you handle that and make it fair? Hi, Greg.
Hi, am I too early?
Nope, you're right on time. We're just talking a little bit about the roles for the contest and the leadership opportunities that you have there. But, and the district chief judge is responsible for making sure that all of the contests are fair and have judges to judge contests and a chief judge there to make sure that the contest runs fairly. But it's a lot of fun to do that. And I know Neha doesn't like to be a judge as much as she likes to be a contestant. But let me introduce Greg. So Greg is a past district governor, which we talked about is the same thing as the district director today. The role names have changed. And he has had many, many different kinds of roles in Toastmasters. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about your journey through Toastmasters, like why you started, how long you've been a Toastmaster, and some of the roles you've had and things you've learned?
Thank you, Jill. I've been in Toastmasters 23 years. I have, for the first 10 years, 11 years, I was I'm going to call it a typical standard Toastmaster. I didn't leave my club. I gave speeches about once every 2 years. I fulfilled any role in the club. I was an officer each of those years and learned how a club is supposed to operate by going to officer training, typically as a vice president of education, treasurer, or secretary. But I wasn't too interested in district service. At year 8, 9, or 10, the district leaders at that time inspired me by the messages they were given and what they taught me. There were leadership trainings by Maurice Tate. The leaders at that time were David McAllister, David Martin. David McAllister has now been an international director on the board of directors. That inspired me, and I wanted to have that. Plus, I learned that you have to have a year of service to become a distinguished Toastmaster, which is why I decided to be an area governor and serve my year. As an area governor, you're similar to a first-line supervisor at a business. You visit the clubs, you help the clubs how you can, you answer their questions. But the interesting thing that you learn as an area governor is you actually learn how Toastmasters works. the ins and outs, why you have your key performance indicators that we call distinguished club program goals, why you need a plan. We call it the club success plan. It can be tailored, but that is all laid out to you by Toastmasters on how to be a successful club. I had so much fun, I agreed to become a division governor, which is the manager of the area governors. And the skills you learn there is to communicate to the area governors. You're not really the doer. You're the teacher and the communicator of knowledge. And you're there to help your area governors when they do need help. At the end of that year, a close friend of mine, who happened to be an area governor at the time, said, "Greg, you know you want to be a conference chair. Just go ahead and volunteer." So I became a conference chair. That caused a tremendous amount of leadership growth because you're leading a 30 to 40 person team. Some of them are assigned roles like the district chief judge or the contest chair, but you have to get your own volunteers. You have to get Toastmasters leaders to create the training sessions, different sessions throughout a spring conference. And you need, or you want to get them to follow your vision. So you set a vision and you communicate it.
What was your vision?
And what was riding the wave. And I had to convince the district leaders that it was a vision that the conference could rally around because it was different than priors. Believe, achieve. It wasn't inspiring words. It was more fun. And that's what we did for the district. With that conference, we made it fun. I had 3 or 4 teams and we would visit contests. They were in person at that time. And they would be dressed in beachwear or hula hoops and riding surfboards, making the conference fun. Now, where did I get that type of idea? Well, a previous conference chair, Brenda Daniels, would go dressed as a cheerleader and rah-rah at the training sessions and contests. And that made it fun. That encouraged me to want to go to the conference. After that, I was a district chief judge, a contest quality chair. Those are staff roles to make sure that outside of the club, the district holds quality events and they meet the rule book and they're fair. Also ensures that the flyers are of high quality. You need staff, you need someone to do it. Now, did I do the work? No. I would provide feedback to the area directors and division directors that you left this off or you left that off. Editing wasn't hard, but someone had to do it. And the trio desk doesn't have time. So they need a staff person. Then I took a year off and I decided, no, I didn't decide. Someone asked me to run for program quality director from the floor. And I did. I wanted to be in the trio. I just didn't believe I had the time. In many of the roles I've already discussed, you don't believe you have the time. But you find it. You create it. You make it. You have more time in your day than you believe. Sometimes you get a little bit less sleep, but you make the time and it can be done. And I was elected. District individuals chose me to be program quality director, and I followed my district director at the time, Jody Sanders. And then usually in those roles in our district, you don't run opposed. I became the district director the following year. When I was the district director, the theme was It's Your Journey. I learned that year that it was also a theme at a prior spring conference. I didn't know that. And my emblem I chose was very similar to that, but it doesn't matter. It was all about the member and them taking the journey they needed. And each of us have unique journeys. That's for 6 years after being district director, I was the pathways coordinator or chairman or whatever title you want to give it, but I was the person responsible for getting pathways implemented in the district.
Promoter,
not responsible, promoter. Yes, better word.
yeah. What was the role that was your most favorite?
Area director. area governor.
Okay.
Because of all the roles, we have a policy in our district that we want our area governors or directors, that's the same role, to visit their clubs a minimum of 3 times, which in reality isn't hard because they have officer inductions. That's one visit. We want them to have an open house. That's the second visit. And we need an official visit where we talk to the officers before or afterwards to do our area director reports. That's the summer, fall. In the winter, spring, you may have new officers to induct, but if not, you have a club contest to attend, hopefully another club open house and another official visit. And before you know it, you're done. It's about 1 visit a week, 2 hours a week for the visit when you travel to the club. If your clubs are virtual, it's even quicker. But there's more benefit because you can talk one-on-one to the club officers and give them advice based on your experience. Remember, the first time I did that, I'd already been in Toastmasters 10 years. So I had a lot of knowledge of how the club ran. So there's a lot of payback there.
Did you find that you learned a lot about new things that you could take back to your club?
Yes. Every club is very different. I continue to be a member of several clubs, and they're all different. And I take some of each club to the other club, whether they know it or not, because it's part of me. But the key thing that's the same in each club is the ones I'm in, they're full of energy and they're fun. We're not afraid to cut up during the meeting and enjoy ourselves.
Well, I was the conference chair a few years ago as well. We talked about that. And the theme that I had was I see you, but it was really about your superpowers. And part of that, my daughter-in-law made capes for 4 of us, 5 of us. And I have the cape still. As a matter of fact, I took it to a club meeting on Thursday because the Toastmaster came up with superpowers as the theme for the meeting. So I gave her the cape to wear for the meeting, and we just had fun. It was one of the best meetings we've had because everybody was laughing and having a good time.
One
Neha?
question I had was, how do you encourage somebody to go beyond the club?
One of the barriers to everyone in all parts of their life is, I'm already overloaded. My plate's already so full. How can I add doing this extra? I'm going to repeat, you will find the time if you want it, and it doesn't take away as much as you think from your family, because you can do many area director tasks when you have your alone time and you're not with your family. If that's your concern, it's going to take away from my family. And your payback from being an area director is you learn better. If you're an introvert, you become more extroverted. If you're already an extrovert, maybe you learn not to go too far in your communications, but you learn to communicate your message to others. I had the habit of, I didn't know how to get volunteers. You need people to help you. You learn the best way to get them to help you is to help them. Go volunteer your time at their club and help them. And then when it's time to ask them for help, they're more willing. You don't do it by email. Emails get lost in the shuffle or ignored, or they get read and they get forgotten. There's lots of reasons, but they don't get responded to very often. And the first lesson I learned, and my division governor taught me, I stood in the front of the room at the lectern and said, I need some volunteers. Who would like to do this? And they all just looked at me and no one responded. Well, obviously that didn't work. And I knew it didn't work because it was time to get the helpers. When I asked, she said, no. You have to give them up. Not give them. You don't have to. You notice the people during the meeting and what they do well. Some people are more organized. Some people are really good timers. Some people are really good speakers during the meeting, because you need speakers and helpers. You walk up to them after noticing those characteristics. You compliment them on what you've seen. I mean, it's a fact of what you're saying. And then you give the ask. That's a technique, not a trick. But you learn in your club, you're all familiar with every other, and you don't have to. It's an assigned role. You just need to do it. But the area director is outside, essentially talking to toastmasters, but strangers. Maybe you've only seen them twice, and now you're already asking them to do something for you. You learn better interpersonal skills, no matter how skillful you are. And I, as an introvert and a guy, learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Well, you were talking about being conference chair, Greg. I have to remind you of this because this is when I actually met you. We did a skit for the conference that was hula dancing. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember hula dancing on the stage. We're not going to play that, are we?
No, we're not going to play that.
Okay.
But that's how I met him. I remember practicing and getting up on stage and doing the hula. And that was just one of those, hey, how about let's do this? And I said yes. It wasn't my comfort zone, but I did it anyway. And we had a great time. And it's something to remind Greg of periodically. Actually, it's posted out on Facebook. And it comes up in my feed every so often to remind me.
I will attest that Greg used the technique that he just mentioned. He complimented me. I was a very good speaker. And then he was able to get me to whatever he wanted me to do as a volunteer. But that's how it started. Like, I think he saw me somewhere in the speech contest that came to me and he's like, oh, you're a very good speaker. And I was like, okay, it felt good. And then anytime he would ask me to do volunteer for anything, I would never say no. So I would attest to that technique that Greg just mentioned. Yeah, and that's what Jill and I were discussing. We have never been in a club with Greg. We have met him outside the club with his conferences and speech contests. So another question I had was, like, I've been an area director, but I've never seen myself being a division director or anything else. So once you take the first step, which is area director, which is beyond your club, would you then advise that you should go to division director or just go ahead and do any other roles beyond the club?
After you serve as an area director, if you're comfortable with the serving and the helping, and you see growth in others from when you at the beginning of the year through the end with your fellow area directors. Same with a staff role. You interface at the beginning of the year a couple times, especially at the live contests. Over the video, little postage stamp, sort of like this is. It's not as interactive. I don't get as much from the video as I do from in person. But if you want to test the waters, test staff roles. I wouldn't go from area director necessarily to conference chair. But a staff role where you have to talk to a larger variety of people, maybe convince them to do something, a volunteer chair at a conference, or go to the division director. You know the role of the area director, so you know what you're talking about. But the key is you're communicating to them, either in a staff role or division director would be a good choice if you want to serve another year. And if you are getting benefits, either one will give you benefits.
So I'll have to say, from my personal experience, I didn't want to be a division director the year after I was the area director. And I took a lot of different roles between the two. I looked at the division director and I wasn't ready for it. It took a while. And by the time somebody approached me about being a division director, I was ready to take on that role, but it took time and experience to get there. So between being a TOI chair, being a contest judge, working at the district level, I've had quite a few different roles. Like I said, this year it's the alignment chair, of which I know nothing about. I was upfront and honest with the district director about it. I said, I know nothing about it, but I can ask questions and I will learn. So that's where I am. But, you know, I didn't really think that I could do the division director role until I actually did it and had that confidence to get into it. So you may say no to start, but that doesn't mean that the door is closed forever. So Neha, we're going to be after you to take more district level roles.
If you're wanting to earn a DTM in pathways, then the staff roles aren't going to get that for you.
Okay.
You'll have to be a division director or a finance manager or an administrative manager. You'll have to be one of the elected roles or the top 7 roles in the district.
Oh.
If you're wanting a second DTM in pathways.
Oh, just area director is not enough in the pathways? If it just be area director, that's because I think in the previous.
Oh, you could be another area director. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You could repeat as area director. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was just thinking about it from a stepping out point to something else. Oh yeah, they'll gladly let you serve as another area director. They need 24 of them.
Have you had a bad experience in any of these roles that stopped you to going back and doing it again?
No, I've not had an experience bad enough in any role to stop me from doing it again. While doing the role, did I have a negative experience as a leader? Yes. That's where the learning came from. You don't do that way because that's not going to work. That's actually going to make the person mad at you. Don't talk to people that way.
But Greg, as the district governor, I remember being a lot of fun, FUN, and we had a lot of fun that year.
Yes.
Because I have heard experiences of area directors where they were not very happy and were like, I am never going to do this again. And I'm like, okay. This is during when I was the area director, we were just talking amongst ourselves and talking with the other area directors. Oh, it's too much to go to the other clubs and the president are not responding, the VP of education, or nobody from the club is responding. That was the genuine complaint from a lot of area directors, that the club officers are not responding. And I'm like, you just have to keep trying. Just keep showing up.
There's an attitude, though, that goes along with that. It's, are you in it to serve the district? Are you in it just for your year of service to get your DTM? And that makes a big difference.
Another insight about clubs. A club with low membership, but they still keep being a club, continue to meet the minimum 8 members, or they get to 12 or 15 and they drop back and they're on a sine wave. There's someone in that club helping it stay alive, or several someones. And if the officers aren't responding, then you try to figure out who that several someones are. And if you visit the club and observe, you might even be able to observe who that someone is. So my advice to an area director is, if you're not getting response from the officers, find out who you would get response from and see if they would help you. You just have to ask.
And if you've been around the district long enough, you're going to have a good idea on a lot of that. For instance, there's this guy, Greg Pick, that does some of that. But
yes, I would be one of those, and I will help anyone any way I can. But you can still get around non-responsive. That is a challenge area directors face.
Mm-hmm.
If they have 4 clubs, 1 or 2 of them at least are going to be that way. And there's many reasons. As a contest chair, what I found interesting is some corporate clubs, no one in the corporate club will list their phone number. Well, how do you call anyone that doesn't list a phone number? Now, all you can do is email or show up and visit the club and then personally ask them for their cell phone.
Yeah.
Commitment.
If you can get them to respond via email, you can very often get their phone number because it's part of their signature. But that's just a trick of the trade. Well, Greg, we are so happy that you came and shared with us some of your experiences today. And I know that I learn from you all the time. Yes, you may not realize it, but you are a mentor, even an unintentional mentor. So we're happy that you were here today to join us. Neha, do you have any last minute questions?
No, like I said, I have known Greg through contest and I have learned a lot from him. And I learned a lot today. The techniques that he has given me, I am going to take it back in my officer roles. And I think talking to you guys made me feel like being an area director is not as intimidating as I felt the very first time. It's like you said, it's the attitude. That if you go with the right attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know the job, right? You're not going to learn the job. You're going to be able to learn content better because you're not focused on learning the job.
Yes. So I would say, yes, this talk did inspire me to think about maybe going beyond my club. So thank you so much.
Welcome. My only question is, how do I come back to this and look at it?
We will have a link, and I will send you the link to the episode.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So
everybody have a great day.
Yes. And our next episode is going to be all about being the toastmaster and the different roles in the meeting. So we'll talk about being the CEO of the meeting instead of the CEO of the district this time. Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Neha?
Oh, you can find us on Spotify and YouTube for our previous episodes and for our future episodes. So you can subscribe and listen to us. We are Techies That Talk on YouTube and Spotify.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Bye.